Hi, I'm Jay. I want to talk about fishing in video games that are not about fishing. So about a year ago, I made a TikTok rating 27 different fishing minigames. Personally, I think I slayed that video. It was iconic, the crowd went wild, we all remember where we were. But that video was like 12 minutes long and it didn't make a ton of sense for it to be a TikTok. So now that we're on YouTube, I have gone back into the archives to remaster this beloved classic for our modern times. So welcome to rating fishing in video games that are not about fishing, now featuring 9 new games, or 11. Depending on how you count. I've also edited or completely rewritten all of my original reviews. But these new entries are either games that I didn't know had fishing, games that I haven't played since I was 8, or games that I had never played, and I played them just to see the fishing minigame. Yeah, I'm an academic. I did research for this. Quick rules before we get started. 1, we're only discussing fishing minigames where you catch fish. There are several where you can only catch like items, money, Big the Cat's fuck-ass frog. Those have been eliminated. 2, obviously I can only rate games that I've played and fished. If I miss your favorite, there's a good chance that it's either Dota or WoW. Please don't make me do that to myself. And rule 3, these are not in any order except that my top 3 go at the very end. Let's do it. We're talking about the Game Boy Advance version. Off the bat, this minigame is run by Funky Kong. This is how you know that it's a good game. Very little fish diversity, but it's Game Boy Advance, so I'm gonna give it some grace there. I like these mechanics a lot, and I really like that Donkey Kong rides around at like 400 miles an hour on a swordfish rather than just use the boat that is right there. I do like that he does that. 7 out of 10. Next.
Commencing fishing.
NieR Automata exists to bring you existential questions about the nature of life. And one of those questions that it asks is, if you tell a little robot to fish, and it fishes for you, are you truly the one fishing? Gets in your head. I think not, but ultimately the mechanics aren't actually that different from like standard simple fishing mechanics, which means that it's pretty boring. But I like these models a lot, and I especially like the weird future fish. I love this twin fish because it's more fish per fish. 5 out of 10. Next. Mechanically, this is again very standard, so I have no issues with it, but I also don't find it particularly interesting. There are 33 species of things to catch, which sounds respectable, but of those 33, only 18 are actually fish, and the non-fish things are collected by picking them up with your hands instead of actually like casting a rod and fishing, so we're deciding that they don't count. My biggest question here though, if you're only gonna have 18 fish, why do you have both a sole and a flounder? And why do you also separately have a halibut? Halibut is a type of flounder. What are we doing? What is the purpose of this flatfish agenda? I did not realize that game devs were fiending for flatfish so hard. 5 out of 10. Next. This isn't a bad rhythm game, but I hate rhythm games. I have hearing problems. These fish are all solid colors, and there's only 6 types, and it is a rhythm game, which we said already, but I need to emphasize that I hate rhythm games. Also, fish and fishing make you like incredibly OP within the context of the game for some reason, which I dislike. I feel like for a game that isn't about fishing, there's way too much incentive to go fishing. 3 out of 10. Next. I had never played Wizard 101 before, so I had no nostalgia attached to it. It is fun anyway. I normally really don't like MMOs, but I think this was similar enough to Club Penguin that we're good. And then separately, the fishing is also fun. The mechanics are basic, but I like the whole like match your lure to the type of fish thing. And I like that instead of using a rod, you're like casting a spell, so it's on theme. One thing about me, I like to see a goofy thing in a video game. Also, I don't like this fuck-ass pelican. I don't like him. Why is he instrumental to fishing? 7 out of 10. Next. There are really only 2 types of fish you can catch in this game, and one of them is not a fish. The third thing you can catch is an enemy pretending to be a fish, which is bullshit. That's unsportsmanlike conduct. Everyone knows that there's an automatic truce in effect when fishing activities are underway. Also, it defaults to motion controls. 2 out of 10. Next.
I was so pumped about finding the penguin today.
The button press joystick combo mechanic thing they have going on here is super finicky. And there's also only 6 types of fish. One big issue for me is that you can't just like buy a fishing rod. You have to go through several different multi-step quests to like assemble one yourself. And frankly, it just feels like the game is standing in the way of my fishing, which is a terrible thing to do to someone. Also, why is fishing required to complete the Fox social link? I already pay that motherfucker money, and now he wants me to bring him like specific fish. That's lame. 3 out of 10. Next.
It's useless. Useless.
The actual mechanics of fishing are improved from Persona 4 to Persona 5 for sure. And there's a fair amount of customization available here too. However, there are only 9 fish, which I don't like. Also, why is this a man-made pond? I don't support putting liquids in square vessels. Liquids go in circles. Swimming pools are an exception, but I don't know why. 5 out of 10. Next.
5 out of 10. Next.
5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. 5 out of 10. Next. Far Cry is fly fishing, not spin fishing, so it does have somewhat more involved mechanics. I don't think that's a bad thing though. In real life, I personally prefer a spinning reel to a fly reel, because I'm from the Midwest and I have unironic fishing opinions. Anyway, very nice models and a lot of customization here. Like 4 rods and a bunch of different flies. There are only 12 species of fish, which is sad but not inaccurate given where the game is set. 6 out of 10. Next. The whole series because they're all identical. Terrible idea to say that out loud on Beyonce's internet. This is boring. Feeboss is, I would say, a Chuckster level of annoying. Not that anybody really needs a Feeboss, I guess. Also, I've been thinking about this. I don't know if this actually counts as fishing because what you're catching isn't a fish, it's a Pokemon battle. Like there are no mechanics other than selecting use rod. So it probably shouldn't count actually, but I make the rules, so I'm saying that it does. It does get points for letting you fish from another fish. Very Donkey Kong. 3 out of 10. Next.
I've got a question.
Shenmue III has multiple quick time events per fish. Also, given that this game came out in 2019, it's not great that these fish models look like balloons. It kind of looks like those giant fish pillows that you could get at Cabela's. You know how you get giant fish pillows at Cabela's? You do that on the regular, right? Where did my giant fish pillows go? Also, in continuing the theme of Shenmue being obsessed with your Google Calendar, you do have to obey the posted legal fishing hours. I will say, they really managed to make a fishing game that fits with the rest of the game. 2 out of 10. Next. This game stresses me out, and I think that's the point. But it does have 68 different types of things to catch when you're fishing, which is huge. Some of those are just humans that are chilling in the water for reasons that are unclear to me, but that's funny, so we're gonna give it a pass. I like that the models spin around. I like that most of these are creative and made for the game. I like the descriptions that they have with each of the fish. I don't like the models themselves, even though I do usually like Cruelty Squad's art style. I like my fish clear and detailed. I'm trying to see the fishness. I also don't like the fact that fish monetary values swing wildly on the stock market, but that's like part of the commentary that the game is making, so I won't hold that against its fishing. 7 out of 10. Next.
1!
I do not like 3D Sonic the Hedgehog games. I don't like the characters, I don't like the dialogue, I don't like the movement. It never feels like it was even supposed to be fast, which in theory was the whole point. That being said, this fishing is really good. These fish models are so nice, which is confusing because I'm like, why is your ability to animate Sonic so shit, but your ability to animate this fish is fantastic? And the mechanics are great because Sega fishing. The biggest downside is that Big the cat is still there. I understand that it's tradition. I hate his guts. Also, for some reason, fast travel is locked behind fishing in this game, but the actual fish and fishing are very good. 8 out of 10. Next. The original Link's Awakening came out in 1993, which makes it 10 years older than me, and it contains the first ever fishing minigame. It's pretty straightforward. You got 5 total fish in the pond, 3 small ones, 2 big ones. One of the big ones has an item with it. It is always the same fish that has the item. Because this created the concept, the mechanics are obviously very simple. I do really like the side view, which is pretty uncommon at this point. I think there's only 2 other games on this list that are like that. The side view obviously sacrifices like POV realism, but also it's much more fun because you can see everything, so I do prefer it. The biggest issue with this fishing game is that every single time you cast, the game re-explains how to use the fishing rod. Like every single time it tells you press these buttons in this order. Well, that's just pretty Zelda of it, I guess. Like when you're like halfway through the game and Navi is still explaining how to open a door. 6 out of 10. It does get bonus points for being the original. Next. This minigame is well done in terms of being a remake. The mechanics are still very simple, but there's a bit more customization here, like a couple different lures. Very few fish still, but now it doesn't have the excuse of being the first game to ever do it. These days, we have superior fish technology, and I do expect games to reflect that. I do enjoy this big fish. He's very goofy. It's a better minigame, but it doesn't get the bonus points from being the original. 5 out of 10. Next.
Hey, look, listen!
So all of the 3D Zelda games that have fishing also have basically the same mechanics for fishing, but some small stuff does change. Ocarina of Time was the first 3D Zelda game with fishing, so the mechanics are pretty rudimentary. One big plus is that if you catch a fish that beats the local record, the fisherman dude will put it in a tank with your name next to it. We should probably discuss this fisherman guy, like as a society. He is always standing like this, even like 50 years apart. 5 out of 10. Next. This is pretty standard fishing. 24 total fish, pretty well randomized, couple different lures, etc. What does elevate it above average for me is that it incorporates other game mechanics into fishing. Different masks that Link wears let him do different things throughout the game, but like in fishing, one of them lets him walk on lily pads and another one lets him spook fish out of their hiding places. 6 out of 10. Next.
No.
What do you mean, no?
I mean, no. You want to hear it in Spanish? No.
Easily the best of the Zelda fishing. You got bobber fishing versus lure fishing. Fish conditions changing due to weather and season. A specific mechanic for setting the hook, which I really like. You can use fish to attract cats. I don't know what you do with them from there, but you've got them. 8 out of 10. Next.
I call it the buoyancy operated aquatic transport.
Wind Waker doesn't have fishing. It's the Zelda game built around boats. and it doesn't have any fishing. Incredibly bullshit, 0 out of 10. Next.
Boat for short.
Phantom Hourglass is a direct sequel to Wind Waker, and it does have fishing. They tried to just like sneak fishing in for the sequel, very reminiscent of J.K. Rowling making Dumbledore gay on Twitter in 2007. And there's only 6 fish. Too little, too late, 2 out of 10. Next.
Then I'm gonna play Skyrim. To me, it sounds a lot like Skyrim.
It took them 10 years to put fishing in Skyrim, which is funny. If I counted right, there are 33 fish you can catch, which is respectable. The main thing I'm thinking here is that the inclusion of the tripod spiderfish is crazy. Like this fuck-ass thing. Why, of all fish, have you chosen this one to be part of your 33? This is a deep sea fish, like 6,000 meters down deep sea fish, and it's not one that your average person is aware of. The choice to put this fish in the game speaks to someone on the dev team who has been waiting for like 20 years for anybody to ask them about the tripod spiderfish. However, anywhere else, that person would be me, so I approve. The inclusion of the tripod spiderfish, I think, brings these very basic mechanics up to a 6 out of 10. Next. This is a Dark Souls DLC. I normally really like pixel art as a style, but I dislike it in this instance because I can't see the fish very clearly. Again, I want my fish crisp and visible. That being said, there are 70 species of fish, which is huge. And the thing I do really like is that there are 5 different behavior types of fish, so they feel different to catch, which is cool. Another thing that's cool, in this game, there are several characters that really like it when you give them a dead fish. In real life, people do not like that, which seems like bullshit to me, but 8 out of 10. Next. We're not going to go over all of the Yakuza games individually because there are 11 of them, kind of depending on how you count, and I think 9 of those have fishing. So we're just gonna do an overview. The mechanics are pretty basic and pretty similar across all the games, but for some reason the difficulty varies wildly. In Yakuza 5, for example, fishing is the single easiest thing that has ever been put in the interactive medium. And in Yakuza 3, it is by far the most difficult thing in the game. It does have some good diversity, like there's both river fishing and sea fishing in most of the games. Mostly though, Yakuza gets huge bonus points for letting you use certain fish as weapons. Collectively, it gets a 6 to 7 out of 10 with 2 exceptions. First, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth gets an 8 out of 10, because in that one there are a few arcades in the world where you can just go play straight up Sega bass fishing, which is a game that kicks ass. I'd give it a 10 for being Sega bass fishing, but it's on thin ice because it's a game about fishing that is inside a game that is not about fishing. Toes the line. The other exception is Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which gets a 5 out of 10. It loses points for having fishing by dragnet, which is very harmful. That game's great though, holy shit. Next.
It's in the walls.
I did not know that Destiny 2 had fishing. The reason I didn't know is that it's only in season 21, which you need either a season pass or the Lightfall DLC and an annual pass in order to play. All of those things of course cost extra money. And then when the season ends, all of that content is gone even if you bought any of those things. So what I'm telling you is that I have not done Destiny 2 fishing because I didn't think this far ahead 2 years ago, so that's my bad. However, also I haven't done anything in Destiny 2 in like 8 years because I hate Destiny 2. 0 out of 10. Next.
You offering to take me fishing, father?
Hades' never-ending quest to tell you that your reaction time sucks does extend to its fishing. By which I mean when you fish, the game is timing you. Like there's a written inverse relationship between player reaction time and the likelihood of catching a rare or legendary fish. Very rarely in my life have I said this, but this is a game that did not need fishing. Hades is a roguelite and a hack and slash. Like visually, you are so far away from your character. When he catches a fish, you can't see shit. And anyway, fishing is inaccessible enough that I think most people don't even know it's in the game. 3 out of 10. Next. Fishing in Okami is very simple. There's no customization, there's no particular skill, it's not very precise. But it isn't trying to be. All it cares about is time commitment. The longer you fish, the more fish you catch, and the bigger those fish get. There are 43 types of fish, which is very solid, and Okami has gorgeous art for everything, fish included. I will say, if it didn't have gorgeous art, I don't think I would like this nearly as much as I do. Seeing the art is reward enough for doing it. As it is, I'm a fan. 7 out of 10. Next.
You, sir, are fish.
Fishing in Red Dead 2 is very similar to fishing in Far Cry 5, except that this isn't fly fishing. There aren't a ton of species. I do like that you use the triggers to fish. These models are nice, I just wish there were more of them. However, Red Dead gets an extra point from Far Cry because of the comically large largemouth bass mission. This is hilarious. And you'll never guess it, but it looks like a fish pillow from Cabela's. 7 out of 10. Next.
Captain!
Okay, I've revised my take on this one probably the most. I used to not like this minigame, but I think I was looking at it kind of in a vacuum. In the context of the whole game, I do like it better. Like, it's fun to be fucking around on a boat and decide to go fishing for a few minutes every now and then. There are only 10 fish, and then there's like 5 variants of each fish, but they're just palette swaps. I think I give them credit for that though. The baseline mechanic is pretty standard, but I think that the overall atmosphere actually does boost it a lot. 6 out of 10. Next. Fishing in this game is incredibly stressful, just like everything else in this game. There's not a ton of joy in this fishing because it's like fish or you'll die in the next 30 seconds. And also you have to micromanage your rod like normal, but it's so small on the screen. I do like these fish though. There aren't a ton of them, but they definitely get points for making up their own and giving them pun names. Regardless, I'm really not a survival game person, and this is very much survival game fishing. 4 out of 10. Next. These are legendary graphics, as we all know. Disney animators aspire all their lives to create something this good. The shape of this creature is excellent. Also, this definitely gets points for having, I think, the only competitive multiplayer fishing on this list, or anywhere, but it loses points for only having 6 fish and for motion controls, which, like, the whole point of Wii Play was that it was a tech demo for the Wii Remote. I don't think we were supposed to be playing it for this long, guys. 4 out of 10. Next. There are like 7,000 different conditions that affect fish in this game, which is too many. There are 30 species of fish, which is solid, and the fishing is pretty simple. For me though, it's not the kind of simple that makes it relaxing, it's the kind of simple that makes it tedious, especially because of how much extra shit is going on. 4 out of 10. Next. Calico Creators! The monster hunters that have fishing all have basically identical and very simple mechanics. It's a total foregone conclusion. Like, you press A to cast, and then you press A when a fish approaches, and you now have the fish. Rise has 19 fish, Wilds has 20, and World has 17. I do think World is better than the other two fish-wise. I like these models a lot. You don't really see the fish in the others because they're represented by drawings instead. But overall, I think a fishing minigame would have made a lot of sense for Monster Hunter, and I don't think this did it right. 3 out of 10 for Rise and Wilds, 4 out of 10 for World. Next.
A fish. This isn't the time to be fishing for fish, Zach.
My favorite thing about Deadly Premonitions fishing is that a pack of 6 worms, like bait, costs $120. Casting your line looks bugged out, even though I'm pretty sure it isn't. Other shit looks bugged out because it is. And then instead of like a button mash minigame, it's you start playing fish roulette. Points for originality, I think. This one does toe the line a bit with the rules though, because while you can catch actual fish, you're more likely to catch other stuff. And this is also another situation where story progression is locked behind fishing. However, it is so funny that I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Okay, top 3. Number 3. This fishing minigame is elite. I'm not even talking about the fish here though, I'm talking about the game. There's only 2 fish really, unless you were a Club Penguin member, but you weren't. Anyway, we got the little yellow one who is apparently named Fluffy, and the big red one. Not a lot going on. However, the gameplay is top tier. You gotta time your clicks, skirt around obstacles, snag extra bait, avoid crabs and sharks because they're coming for you. I'm being so serious right now. Of all the fishing minigames we've talked about, this one is the most fun. Not the most polished, not the prettiest, not the fishiest, but the most fun. 9 out of 10. Next.
You're ugly, you're disgusting, I'm gonna kill you, give me $200.
Now, arguably, Animal Cross is a game about fishing because it's a life sim and life is about fishing, but we're gonna let it slide. This fishing matches the rest of the game in that everything is on a real seasonal and day-night cycle. So catching like a specific fish can take a lot of waiting, but these fish are world-class. Excellent. If you do not have all of the bugs and fish in Animal Cross, why are you playing the game? Bugs and fish are the best part of everything, obviously. But these fish are the best of the best and they get better every game. They also add 8 new fish every game, which puts us at 80 fish with Animal Crossing New Horizons. These models are beautiful, I love them. And super important, the fish go in the museum, which means you can stare at the models for as long as you want, which is what I am doing. My island is almost entirely museum. Even in City Folk, it was almost entirely museum. 9 out of 10. And finally, my number 1 favorite fishing minigame in a game that is not about fishing. I'm still not sure why this happened. I'm pretty confident that the devs just wanted to see how sick of a fishing game they could make if they had Square Enix money. But then because they had Square Enix money, they also had to tack on like a whole very gay RPG with really detailed soup physics. I remember being shocked the first time I saw Ignis make soup in Final Fantasy 15. There's no way that you spent this much fucking time and money animating soup. I need you to know that the fishing in this game was so good that they had to make an entire separate tie-in game that is just VR fishing. The main character is like canonically obsessed with fishing too. He's been in some other Final Fantasy games too, and every time they make a point to be like, yeah, Noctis loves fishing. But this shit is great. Customize your rod, your reel, your lure, your line. The enemy encounter music starts playing when a fish approaches. These models are gorgeous, and there are 109 species of fish in this game. Also, you get to hang out with the boys, which is like the entire game, but still. Perfection, world class, the best of the best. 10 out of 10.
I am Noctis, Prince of Lucis and King of Fishing!
You know my buddy calls himself the king of fishing?
Thanks so much for hanging out. My other socials are in the description. My Patreon is there too if you want to support me and get some cool rewards. If you're wondering why I'm crowdfunding, it's because I'm scared of running ads. I don't know how it works. Anyway, bye.
After 11 grueling days of fishing, I've hooked what could be the biggest totally freshwater river monster I've ever had on my line.